Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migu and you're watching The Viewpoint. And joining us now is Honorable Francis Mwangangi, who is the Deputy Governor of Machakos County. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Great.
Yes.
Despite the suffering.
What's
Kenya?
Suffering?
Yes.
What do we do about it now? You're in leadership, actually. So what do we do? Do we do to alleviate the suffering that you're talking about?
First is the issue of devolution. You know, now I'm delocalized. So I can speak matters devolution because I'm at the local level where I'm with the Mwananchi every morning, every time, every minute. So I think we can do better in devolution as a country, which is the only tool that can transform this country.
Yeah.
Centralism will never work for any country to transform.
Yes.
It will only work for politically correct regions and persons. But if we were to really deal with the issues affecting this country effectively, and even bring about national cohesion that the head of state is trying to achieve, I think the faster way to do that is having a devolution that is working. Not a devolution that we devolve to functions, but money is still at the center.
You've said something about politically correct regions.
Yes.
What does that mean?
What that means is not necessarily the ruling party, but those close to those in decision making. Those regions will benefit because if it is projects allocation, if it is budget, the financing, the decision makers will ensure specific regions, even without them knowing, because you act by what you are seeing. They will end up having some areas more developed than others. And that is the case even as we sit here. We have more regions in this country which are more advanced development-wise than others who still never think they are still part of Kenya. Yes.
Before we went off air, we went for a break. We were talking about the story on the front page of the Standard, that is Uhuru had hand in Ruto Raila cabinet deal, and initially Raila had said the president was the one who sought a deal, who reached out to him. Now yesterday he comes out and says it is former President Uhuru who reached out to him and told him to talk, to engage with the president. Where is the truth in all this, and what do you think of this?
And there is also the third one, that the ODM members negotiated for themselves. So we don't know which one to believe, but if it is true the immediate former head of state did what the Prime Minister said, then I'm seeing three different issues there. One, he could be concerned about the country, despite what was committed to him and his family when he peacefully handed over the power. I'm talking about raiding his farm and taking away his animals. Despite all that, he put the country first, and he wanted a cohesive, a united country. That's why he wanted the demos end, other than collapsing the country where we will collapse all of us all. Secondly, in case he did it, then it will be very difficult to understand the kind of politics the Prime Minister could be playing, because when at the Azimio side, there were two theories. One is the ODM leaders negotiated for themselves, and they reached out to him and he released them. That is one theory. The second one is the president reached out to him. Now, I can't understand that because it is not adding up. And then the third thing, it could be another way of duping Kenyans, where the Prime Minister could have reached out to the President so that he can also secure the African Union Commission chairmanship. There must have some trading.
Yes.
I get this and you also get this. And out of it, you also do this. But in all that, I'm on record and I will remain consistent. All this development and happenings in this country, none when Azimio was in the streets, when our youths have gone to the streets, nobody asked for this broad-based government. Nobody. It was not in the agenda. It is the agenda of the political class in this country. If it is a question of attaining national unity, national cohesion, there are principles of democracy and we need to adhere to that. Those principles of democracy dictate that you win, even if it's 1/4, you have won. You can achieve that within Kenya Kwanza. If it is Azimio that is in power today, they have enough resource persons to fill any position. And the other side that was defeated should accept that and play critical role, because we need a strong opposition, not for the purposes of just criticizing the government, but checking on the excesses of an administration. For those who are gaining from this arrangement, they will always praise. But the objectivity is, don't kill the opposition. Make it stronger so that even for the president, deputy president, and now the prime cabinet secretary, wherever they sit up there are things that can be unearthed by the opposition that they will not ideally, if there was no opposition, know. So it is very important that we have very strong government and also very strong opposition.
Now, MP for Kibra, that is Mheshimiwa Peter Orero, I want you to respond to this sentiment. And actually, you are in ODM. Was there anything to do with negotiations or a pact between the party, the ODM party and the government on these appointments?
I think to all of us and to yourself, we all know that as ODM party, there was no negotiation. And that is why we are still recognized as the Azimio in the opposition. And we continue to carry our roles and criticize positively where it is the way we have been doing. As a party, we have not gone to negotiations with the government, the structured negotiations. But we have some of our leadership have been appointed, our people in the leadership in the ODM have been appointed in the government. And as our party leader has said every time that he allowed them to join a broad-based government. And one of the reasons is the party, those who have been leading the ODM party, are credited with certain aspects in governance and management. And they have been given positions within the government to see whether we can have everybody else can be included. The inclusivity aspect that my colleague was saying is enshrined within our constitution should be a guiding factor in any government that comes into existence, whether you win or lose. When you win, you should be able to embrace everybody else, because this is a country that must be taken care of by all Kenyans. But as we speak, we do not have a structured agreement with the ruling Kenya Kwanza government. But we have some of our members who have been appointed in the cabinet within the ruling party.
Yes, I see Honorable Sosian is smiling. But even as you come to respond to that, actually the president seems to be now enjoying support from people.
No, the president was not looking for political support. I don't think that is the urgent intention of the president. The president wants the country to work, and in the new context of Africa and African politics, and where we've practiced Western political styles, it is time we navigate our continent and innovate governance systems and political systems that work. There is completely nothing wrong, even if the cabinet today was made up of the president, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, and all of them running the country, even after elections, with the outcome the way it is. There's nothing wrong, because we are all Kenyans, and underscored what the president stated and what he has done over time, so that this action of forming broad-based government is not something that was conceived instantly, and it is not something that happens by miracles. And I want to ask Mwangangi, ukiona vielea vimeundwa, things don't happen by accident. It happens deliberately. And when you look at ODM, the two deputy party leaders are in government. That is Joho and Oparanya are in cabinet, and the leader of minority, do you know the leader of minority in the National Assembly is in the cabinet, running a serious docket of energy, and the chair of ODM himself is the cabinet secretary for treasury. Those are not simple undertakings, and the party leader himself of ODM is being sponsored to AU. Those are serious undertakings. Those are not child plays. Those are not simple things where you wake up and you invite and say, hey, Raila Odinga, I'm inviting you to sponsor you to AU. Those are serious undertakings that all of us must see. And I think we should open up to contexts where after elections, we can organize governance system in an inclusive manner and in a productive manner for the good of the country and move on. And when Kenya is fronting Raila Odinga as president of AU Commission, it is not just for window dressing or to reward Raila Odinga. It is to transform Africa. And we must transform the political ecosystem of Africa. And we must not necessarily practice political fashions of other jurisdictions or civilization like the global north or the US. Let us have African contexts of democracies where it works. If it is possible to have political differences and still find a structured way of running government for the good of the country, and if it works, then it's right. That's what Professor Mark Fazon said. If it works, then it's right. And it is true. There is no coalition agreement between Kenya Kwanza and ODM that is signed. But there are negotiations, there are engagements that are serious and which all of us respect, and it is working. Today, if I walk to Treasury, I'll go and greet my former party chairman, John Badi, as the Minister for Finance.
You don't forget he was our member of ODM. And inside him,
I also don't want
his blood runs
I also
ODM.
don't want you to forget that even the president was a member of ODM and was an MP of ODM in 07. All of us have worked together. We have a history. And I can dare say I've hosted Raila Odinga in my house several times. I've hosted Kalonzo Musyoka in my local school. So in Kenya, we have history of connection. So when you talk of the political leadership in this country, they also have their own relationship. But then the issue here is that what can we do as a matter of urgency to stabilize the political equilibrium in this country so that we can create an ecosystem of revolutionary transformation of the economy of this country and eliminate and kick poverty out of Kenya? How are we going to bring corruption to an end? How are we going to strengthen good governance? And how are we going to bring in inclusivity? He has talked about devolution and And the audit of devolution is a deputy governor and governors. And if we were to do an audit of devolved funds through counties and devolved funds through CDF money seems to do more work than the funds that goes to county government. So that really, if we are to do even an audit, is it really working? The question, is it really working? But that does not mean, I'm not saying we should not send money to devolved units. We should, but we should make our systems work. Right. It is time we make Kenya work. It is time we have an economy that works. And it is time we have we have inclusivity.
You know, when you leave my colleague, he's a unionist. He can talk for 4 hours non-stop and in a structured manner. So
7 hours. I used to do 7 hours.
I wanted to ask a question to the DG. This dalliance with the government and ODM has, even though the president is saying, well, we are talking about matters national unity, there is still a faction of leaders from the mountain who feels that they are losing out. Does it seem so?
Before I go there,
yes.
If it were not for the opposition,
yes,
Kenyans today will not have known the late what do you call this? Not the late. The Kenyans will not know of the major scandals that took place at different times under different presidents. You know, JM Kariuki, death. The way the government was handling that thing, were it not for the opposition within the parliament,
you know, maybe Kenyans young, he might not be
no, that is history. Even myself, even
that was 76.
I was not even born then, but I read history.
Yeah, okay.
History tells me, were it not for members of parliament who acted swiftly, Kenyans will not have known JM Kariuki was assassinated and dumped somewhere. Were it not for the opposition, Kenyans will not have known about Goldenberg scandal. Were it not for the opposition, Kenyans will not have known much about Anglo-leasing. So what I differ with Honorable Sosioni is the fact that we are talking of coercion as though you must bring in or you must kill the opposition for you to achieve national cohesion, national unity, national development. That's not true. In any case, the opposite is right. So coming to your question of Mount Kenya and the current variants, obviously it is going to now strengthen the leadership of that region and the leadership of the deputy president. There is no region, don't be lied to anybody. There is no region that has no leader. Even in our homes, when dad is not there, mom is there, and the chain continues.
Yes.
So in this case, that being the high-ranking officer from that region, it will make now matters easy for him, actually. Even those who are opposing him will now be seen like turning down and coming back. Now, I think the issue of ODM working with UDA, it can also testify what has been happening in the politics of this country. The party or coalition that wins the election at a particular election period is not the same one which goes to the next election. So maybe this is now future politics information. Because I would say, and the two government leaders will disagree with me, but it is a very big betrayal of almost over 100 youths who have been killed, many who have shed their blood, many who are still in hospital, in ICU. And then you bring something that nobody demanded for. Now, and then you want to make Kenyans believe, no, that was the problem. Now Kenya is, I think we need to be serious. And as a person who interacts with the youths at the grassroots level, I think we need to address the real issues. And the real issues is the transformation of and the rearrangement of our economy so that it can address the needs of an unemployed population, because that is a threat in itself. Remember, yesterday at night, we ended almost 2 weeks long engagement led by our governor, where we went to almost every area trying to hear and listen, engage our youth to see, why are you going to the streets? What do you think we can do? This is a population that truly understands what needs to be done in this country. But now with this arrangement, I think it is just another confusion. But I comment, President, when he was deputy president, he is on record opposing Raila working with Uhuru. But now the same Raila is also is now in the and immediately they came to power. You remember Deputy President say, "Nimeweka mtego kila mahali, Uhuru," you know. And now you can see how things are. That is not to say people or leaders should not change their mind. But my feeling is, before we went to this arrangement of broad-based government, I wish we could have addressed the issues touching on unemployed population in this country, which will transform. And I think the concept of the late president, the third president of the Republic of Kenya, will save this country greatly. Yes.
You know, I'm so amused because in the social media, people now write that there is another fourth arm of the government. But I'm just quoting from social media that the fourth arm of the government is Raila Amolo Odinga. When you are through the judiciary and the National Assembly, from what he's saying, that he criticized Raila working with Uhuru Kenyatta, and now they are working together. And you know, he also worked with Kibaki, and incidentally worked with Moi. So it means that in any government that forms, I think he is very transformative in his mind. He is a politician that can change with the time and with the demands of the society. He is a real Democrat and practices democracy in its true sense, and accepts the outcome in a very noble way, and puts the interests of this country first. So when he metaphorizes, when he thinks of this country, he always remembers that we have a country to support, despite all the political undoings. You remember after the election, you know, people do not remember that immediately after the election, we had a lot of demonstrations against the outcome of the election and against about the interests of this country, the employment, the rising food prices, which resulted into the formation of the NADCO. And we had people who died during those demonstrations. They were not 40. They were over 75 youths. People forget very fast. People think that it is only the Gen Zs who started. No. They came after we had also carried out demonstrations. They supported and picked from where we left. But I'm saying that everything must be done with the purpose. And when the president formed a broad-based government, it was for, I think it is for the interest of this country that we need to move. I don't blame him for doing that. As a president, you must see what will make you lead the country. Before you take that seat, you might think it is very, very easy to run a country. But the moment you are there, you need to look at the critical arms that you need to touch to help you govern a country. The youth budge in this country is a menace. We need to really think critically how we are going to support our youths, how we are going to create for them employment, how we are going to sustain the increase in our... If we are not going to deal with the youth, even if we have a broad-based government, then we are not going to succeed. What the Gen Zs brought make a lot of sense. They are looking at critical issues. They do not suggest that particular person should be in leadership, but they are saying that we must have a free... We must not have corruption within the country. We must have people with integrity. We must look at those issues regardless of who is in leadership. They must address those critical issues that the agencies are raising. That is when we are going to have a government that is responsive and that is going to fulfill its promises, the economic transformation that they have been talking about. And therefore, as we are here and we have appointments of people from opposition, and my friend, that does not stop us from criticizing the government. I'm still in the opposition, and at any single moment, I will always criticize because I'm still in the opposition. From where I sit, nobody has stopped me from criticizing. I'm a real critic of the government. We will criticize when it matters, and we have positive criticism when it matters. So we are not saying that we are killing the opposition. It is even creating for us, some of us, we have, the movement of our leadership has created room for some of us also to be seen as leaders. We are filling those places very, very effectively. So, and each of one was elected as a representative of a given area. And therefore, we are all equal in terms of priorities within our government system. So I don't think that the opposition has been killed, because as ODM, we now have a new leader of minority, we now have a new whip, we have filled all those positions. We now have 3 new deputy party leaders. So in politics, we must always move, we must be transformative, and we must respond to the issues as they come to us.
Yes. Mheshimiwa Sosion, as you respond to that, in all these aspects of a broad-based government and inclusion of the opposition in the government, where does that leave the deputy president?
First of all, the philosophy of broad-based government has not been understood by those who are still living in the past, the culture of opposition and government. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 does not envisage an opposition and a government. It envisages majority party in the House and a minority party. It can even happen today that ODM, because it can enjoy majority membership in the National Assembly, is a majority party in the National Assembly, but it does not produce the president. That is how it is. So Parliament is independent. It is running on a philosophy of an edict of majoritarian membership that you win in an election. And it has no correlation whatsoever with who becomes the president and the party that produces the president. So this is a different dispensation. And the philosophy of opposition and government was with the British system, which was eliminated by the new constitution. But remember, what the president, yes, parliamentary system. What the president did at the beginning of his term was to write to Parliament and recommended establishment of a proper office of the official opposition. That is, we get back the parliamentary system. And the president said, we want an effective opposition that can check government. And if you check the speeches and the statements of Raila Odinga, it's not about praising government on a daily basis. It's about pointing out key issues in government, which I think it is. There is nothing wrong with us collaborating on this table. And I know you Mwangangi, you are running government. I am in the opposition. Yes, we collaborate, I support, we make the country work, but still, I'll be able to point out what works and what does not work. I think these are things that, these are development, political development and evolution that we really need to embrace. Kenya is a serious democracy, and we cannot kill the democratic gains that we've made over time. And so this broad-based government brings everybody on board. And you've asked, where does that leave the deputy president? The deputy president remains the deputy president, period. And is performing his duties. He's not affected at all. He's the principal assistant of the president. And as far as I know, and I know you'll ask me further, where does that leave the mountain?
Exactly.
The mountain is not threatened. The mountain is not threatened.
But some quarters feel
listen,
that...
Just listen. You see, this winner-take-it-all philosophy that then when we are a Semio and we win government, we take all the positions in government. Where do you put the rest of the people? When we are Kenya Kwanza and when we win government, we take all the positions. Where do you put the rest of Kenyans? We must accept that this is a country built by all the citizens through their own taxes, and therefore what the president has demonstrated is that it is possible to have all regions and all communities playing critical role and being in government the way the Constitution of Kenya 2010 outlines without threatening anybody's interest. So somebody can say, oh, the coming in of ODM and Raila Odinga is threatening the interests of the mountain. No, it is not. And in fact, their slots, their positions in government,
yes,
they are unaffected, and
yes,
they are okay, and their programs are being undertaken. And you saw the president right, after forming the broad-based government, he was in Meru region. After Meru region, he was in Mombasa, several places in Mombasa. After Mombasa, he was in Embu. After Embu, he was in Murang'a. After Murang'a, he was in Nyeri.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a bit.
The most important thing when you are leading people, you mobilize, organize, inform, and make your programs clear. That's all right,
let's go for a break. Let's go for a break. We will be right back and talk more on that point. Don't go too far. Good Morning Kenya continues shortly.
Before I answer that one of the effective opposition, let me answer about the president's tour to the people. Mm-hmm. The principle of governance in our constitution, Article 10, is public participation. Mm-hmm. You cannot, and public participation take different formats, others structured, others unstructured. Things like public rallies, where leaders explain development agenda to the people. Those are serious forums, and that is the highest level of public participation where people are receiving information, communication from their leadership. We are not in offices to sit in our armchairs, and so what the president is doing, by example, is mobilizing and organizing the public around their developmental agenda, yes, and giving them an opportunity to understand what the government is doing. Because when the president visited Meru, he was addressing matters of development of the Meru people and the Meru region. The same case Mombasa, the same case Embu, Murang'a, Kirinyaga, and Kisii. And you can see has been in Kisii for 3 days. It is well planned, well executed, and that is meant to organize and mobilize people around their issues. So Article 10 of the Constitution provides that, and any leader should be able to do that. You've had Mwangangi yesterday. They have been out meeting the people. In a democracy like this one, where you must be accountable, then you must move along with the people all the time. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the president is going to rest. Mm-hmm. He has set an example. That is his style of leadership. Yeah. And I think it's a proper leadership where you must account. You can't neglect people after voting. Mm-hmm. You must visit them, see what they're doing. You've seen the president switching on electricity in modest houses in the last mile connectivity project. Mm-hmm. And those are key milestones of elevating the status of the households in Kenya, because we must move this country to be a middle income country. Okay. That is one. The other question was on
effective opposition.
Yeah, effective opposition. The opposition has not been stopped from working, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. And I think, and the president has made it very clear. He has said, I have not signed a coalition. Because the moment the president and the leader of ODM or Azimio, if they were to sign a coalition agreement with coalition framework, then it meant it was the death of the minority party in parliament. So they've been left to play their role. Nobody has stopped Orero. I don't think Orero has been told by the party leader that you stop doing your work in parliament. No, they are free to do their work. There is a new minority leader, Junaid Mohammed,
Okay.
and the new whip. And
The bad girl.
Working, the bad girl. and they're doing their work, Millie, yes. Even within the Kenya Kwanza administration,
Yes.
and the UDA party, the president has not stopped members of parliament of UDA from executing their role of oversight. The president has not stopped. So if parliament is able to summon a minister or a CS for grilling, and that has been provided for. And in fact, the president went very far to have the standing orders, propose amendment of the standing orders, so that ministers can answer questions in parliament. And that is accounting. What is it that we fear with questioning people in government? And the president has said, these are the ministers I've appointed people in government. Can you put them to task? Let them account for what they are doing. And no member of parliament of the 349 has been stopped from performing their three roles. Legislation, they can originate bills, representation, and oversight. And the president was even very strong on urging members of parliament not to enslave themselves in their constituencies, but move around the country, interact, so that you can internalize the general grievances of the people of Kenya, so that then you're oversighting with full understanding. I expect Orero to visit me one of these days.
Let me bring the DG on this. Let me bring the DG on this. The president tours, the tours that he is making around the country from a political standpoint, and given what has happened in the last 2 months or so, is it a case of trying to win the public confidence again?
That answer is affirmative, yes. And you have allowed Honorable Sosioni to mislead and misinform for a long time. And since since we have government here represented by two very strong men, if you give them 2 minutes, if you give them 2 minutes, each, please give me 4, because I must deal with the misinformation.
Okay,
first and foremost.
Okay,
and leading a vibrant opposition area.
First and foremost, the issue of leading opposition is a technical misnomer, according to me, for ODM and their leader to be in the government and at the same time control what is happening within the opposition space. It is as simple as that. The one to lose is Kenyan people, because you cannot unearth what this hand is doing, yet this other one is supposed to supervise this one, and they are two hands belonging to the same body. Already ODM has gone in bed with government. Let them quit opposition and fully join the government, because they are already there. And they have traded.
The party leader for ODM is saying they have joined the government as individuals, not as a party.
No.
That is a misconception, and he has also said a technical misnomer. No,
you see,
we have not relinquished
just a minute.
Our work as opposition.
You are next, Mwachmwa. You are next.
You will respond to that.
We are allowed to interject where he's giving false information.
Let him finish, then I'll come back to you.
So, yes, in parliament we used to say point of order. Yes. He has not said so, so let him relax.
Yes.
So ODM, technically, where the deal was reached, I campaigned for you to become African Union Commission chair, and you and your party, either you sell it to me, or you give it to me, or you bring your vibrant members to me. Nobody knows which deal was agreed upon. So in this case, those who are losing are Kenyan people. And let me tell you, it is a big betrayal of ODM. And chances are high, wait and see, Kenyans will deal with it in the next election. Now, the second point. Orelo, we are in a civilized democracy. Relax. The second point is what Honorable Zosioni has said, that in democracies, we need to work together. This issue of winner takes it all. That is not true. That's not true. Why? Every constituency, 290 of them, they have CDF. Before President Kibaki left, there was monies for electricity. Before President Kibaki left, there was a women fund at the constituency level. There was youth fund at the constituency level. Still there is devolution currently. So Kenyans should not be duped to tend to think the only way to unite the country is to kill the opposition. We work together and then all is well. That is not true. We need to hear. You know, unlike what my colleagues are saying, opposition is supposed to be there. If you bring policy A about taxes, then the opposition is supposed to bring policy B, challenge the one which has been introduced by the government, and let Kenyans decide. It is not necessarily going to the streets against the sitting government. Another point, and that is why I've called it a misnomer, is because Mheshimiwa Orelo has said their leader worked with Moi, worked with Kibaki, worked with Uhuru, and now is working with, but he has not stated at every level before he went into that government how many Kenyans lost their lives and property. These are some of the things we need to, if we are talking about the positive, also let us remind Kenyans of what happened. Blood was shed, property was lost before that specific arrangement. We cannot continue like that in a democratic society. So, I think going forward, still my point stands that we need a very strong opposition and we need a government that is executing our mandate.
Do you think we have a strong opposition in parliament?
Now, about the rallies and the president's meeting Kenyans, that is okay. I've got no problem with that. But Kenyans, today, I will say this. President Kibaki never did all these kind of things, moving everywhere, campaigning on top of, yet is the most celebrated president who transformed this country. Why? The president is supposed to sit with his advisors, with the cabinet, with anybody he feels can aid in transformation of the country, to add on what he knows and what he promised. When you get out there, I can tell you the result of the president's tours is launching of projects that will never end until he serves his second term. And even he will serve his second term without completing some of those projects. And I can mention some of them, which we did as a member of parliament and we did across this country. That, with that kind of the same arrangement. Lounging here, flying here, doing this, doing that. You know, at the end of the day, we need to transform this country. And to transform it is objectively sit down, look at one policy after the other. We see this one will go this way. We weigh the merits and demerits of the same. Then we prosecute, knowing we are going to start here, move here, and end there. So in this case, those tours, one will argue they will bring national cohesion. We will explain government agenda. But we are forgetting we have government officials at the very local level who we can use structures to ensure the government agenda is explained to the masses. while we continue planning and executing more. That is what we need. But when you don't trust the people who are at the very lower level and you must come, then there is a challenge. Another point, and this is my last point on those tours. Whenever the head of state moves, there is a consumption and an expenditure. That bit, when we are explaining that development, we need also to explain how much it is costing taxpayers. So in this case, I have a feeling that let's not look at the positive bit of what sweets at, but also explain to Kenyans the costs and the expenses of all these tours. Thank you.
I think there are a few case areas that we concur with my friend, but there are areas that we are extremely at variance within in terms of political ideology. He is raising some fundamental issues with our party leader, Raila, that he has worked with the government. I think we all know that in this, the history has it that since 2007 elections, it is believed, and I also believe that Raila has been winning these elections, and the IBC has been denying him his legal right to lead this country. That is what I believe. And because of this, the masses that are always behind our party leader are the ones who always revolve about the government elected. And even if the lives have been lost, it is not because of working of those lives were lost when people were demanding their rights that they had been denied by the Independent Electoral and Boundary Commission. And in any democratic change, any democratic advancement, there are always sacrifices that people make. And don't think that our party leader has not made sacrifices about the democratic gains that we have had in this country. He is one person that has made sacrifice almost more than anybody else in this country about a democratic change. And it does not mean that when he decides to work with the government in one way or the other, he is still being a transformative Democrat. He wants this country to move forward. And that does not mean that he leaves his character of being an opposition person in this country. So I just wanted to correct that losing lives does not mean that our party leader has lost the direction of being an opposition person. No, he's a chief opposition person, especially when his votes are normally stolen in broad daylight, and people believe that he has always been winning these
But he has challenged the elections in court, and courts have...
Of course, you know the court process in this country, that normally the ruling class always invades the court precincts, and they never give okay, it's not within my jurisdiction to judge or to give judgments, but we have seen that our courts do not give what is due to Caesar. We are also saying that really he has also challenged that the people will deal with us as opposition in the next elections. I can assure you, my friend, it is about us with the people. When you talk about the people dealing with us, and we are the ones championing the opposition in this country, we are not in concurrence. We believe that as a political party, as ODM political party, and as Azimio, we still play our effective role as opposition within parliament. Yes. And this has not been curtailed by any movement or any operation that has been done within this system. Mm-hmm. So we as opposition, we are going to continue with our work as the opposition within the parliament. And nobody will refuse us from carrying out our duties as opposition. Mm-hmm. What we are trying to say is that if the president has seen that we have some characters who can help him and can help this country to bring order in terms of management And he has invited those people in his government. We have no business with those people. As ODM, we have not had structured dealing with the Kenya Kwanza government. We have not had structured negotiations with the Kenya Kwanza government. It is within the presence and the jurisdiction of the leader of the Kenya Kwanza government to invite anybody in this country to work with him. And that is our position. Yes.
Mheshimiwa Sosion, the DG reads something about dealing with the real issues. And something that comes up here about this broad-based government. Are we
You
going...
say the who?
The DG.
Or the DG?
Yes.
Yeah.
He said something about dealing,
real issues will be dealt with through, yes?
Dealing with the real issues. Now, and then this aspect of broad-based government. Is this going to deal or to achieve the transformation that was promised?
When the president spoke in unveiling the broad-based government, said, I'm unveiling this broad-based government to help me to deliver on my agenda. My agenda. The president has an agenda. He sold it to the people of Kenya during elections. And the people of Kenya audited the president's agenda, approved it, and voted. And there are very key pillars: transforming agriculture, micro, small, medium enterprise, digital superhighway revolution, affordable housing, universal health coverage for all houses, creative economy, and very many others. And those are the main key deliverables that the president has to grapple about, so that when he will be seeking his re-election, he will have a report card on indicators on how to do it. And he said, I am forming this broad-based government so that we can all do it together so that this agenda can be delivered. The agenda is not for personal benefit of the president. It is for the benefit of the people of Kenya. And then those are then the real issues that that my brother Mangangi is talking about. And if he needs an expanded human resource and personnel to drive the agenda, and he sees Orero as being the right person, there's nothing wrong. And this is not the first time it is happening. Uhuru Kenyatta one time invited John Gaiseri, who was a member of ODM, an MP Kajiado Central, to be the Minister for Internal Security in the Jubilee administration. So these are not new things. And I think in Kenya that is an indication and mark of tolerance. Because why do we promote animosity that then, since you are in the opposition, therefore you are bad, you cannot have space in government? That's wrong. And that brings me now to the discussion of the person of Raila Amolo Odinga and what he has been able to engage with different governments and the kind of engagement he's having with the current government. Raila Odinga, for your information, got 49%, over 49% of the votes in the presidential election. William Ruto, 50 point something. That is almost 50-50. You can't ignore a leader with such a strong support base, and you ignore those people as if they are not Kenyans. They are not outsiders. They are people of Kenya. And therefore, engaging them is more constructive, because how do you achieve unity if you don't close ranks and bring people together? And the president said from day one, I'll engage all leaders, elected and not non-elected. And he wrote to Parliament for creation of the office of the official opposition, so that then in future elections, runner-up and the rest will have offices and they'll participate in the building of government. Now, the person of Raila Odinga he has outgrown Kenya in terms of his history and operations and whatnot. And we are all in this room, all of us. We could be around 10 or 15. We cannot all fight for that one seat. It cannot accommodate all of us. We can all have different seats and still do the same things. That brings in, that promotes the welfare of this room that all of us are in. Raila Amolo Odinga, with the slot of the AU chair, the AU Commission chair is like the president of the continent of Africa. And I don't know how long it will take some members of Azimio to read it. You are still sleeping and slumbering and living in the past. And we have said, let us expand this space and expand the horizon. Well, what do we lose as Kenyans if we support Raila Odinga with these credentials to be the president of the continent of Africa? And he will be dealing with the transformation of the continent, both in terms of economic, because we are promoting what we call Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We want to abolish visas and to be a borderless country and allow movement of goods, strengthen infrastructure, consolidate African unity. Those are facts. I'm discussing.
Give him to
urgent continental matters. But here we want to promote village fights like children. I think Kenya has outgrown that.
Let therefore comment that
the political chapter
is boiling.
The political chapter that we have opened, some people cannot read and cannot understand. It is like calculus in mathematics. So Mwangangi, we should atuone nyuma ya tent, then we can do some teaching.
You see, these members of government, they are trying to retract. You know, members of government.
In fact, he talks to the government more than we do.
Okay, let him respond. Let him respond.
Now,
nothing wrong.
Now, one, Kenyans have been duped by Kenya Kwanza. First, immediately you have gotten hold of the key opposition party leadership. It means now they are getting hold of the opposition and the government at the same time. You are expecting disaster going forward, and you wait and see. Number two, when I talked about betrayal of ODM to Kenyans, and particularly the youth in this country, I meant even look at the individuals that have since been given these cabinet positions. Where is the population that was affected most by these demos? Who represents them in that? Who articulates the agenda of this particular generation at the cabinet level? Which is the top policy-making organ of this country? Number three, Honorable Sosioni should tell the viewers worldwide through this forum, where else this president of African continent as what the previous ones who have been there, the most effective, what is this they have done in the single one, what they have done for this continent? Period, zero. They cannot do anything. It is a big position which is consuming, which will make one move from one country to another, taking tea, mandazi, and we needed somebody. Obviously, Raila fits that bill, because first is an elder. Two is somebody who has been in public policy for a long time. He understands the politics, the global politics, continental politics, and he understands Africa. He has been a champion to that. I have no problem with Raila occupying that so big, according to Sosioni, a very big president of Africa. I've got no problem. My problem is we have a generation here that shed blood for the reforms in this country. Yet, when it comes to political class sharing what they have in their hands, they just share within their class, their old class up there, the men of billions. And when you look, some of them are grand. I wish Mheshimiwa Orelo, and he sounds a very clever leader, very wise. I don't know why they have missed this point. Instead of going for grandparents, they should have gone for their grandsons and be given some of these positions. That is what we are saying. It is not like I don't understand the geopolitics in this region. That is not true. So I think going forward, ODM has betrayed Kenyans completely, and I'm blaming the leadership of ODM, because The people, even during Azimio demos, the people who were killed most, who got injured most, are our youths, this Generation Z. But then, when it comes to some of these policy making, we shelve them. So far, almost 2 years are over since the last election was done. Which particular policy, national policy, that targets youth in this country? Zero.
I think is missing point. One is the deputy, His Excellency, the deputy governor. I would wish that he tells the composition of their employees within that county, if it is a reflective of the youth. That is where we start from.
Yes.
And two, you can never come to a national television and say that ODM has betrayed Kenyans. I think it is Kenyans who have betrayed ODM. He's talking about demonstrations, who died. I was part of those who were leading demonstrations. I never saw him during the demonstration.
Obviously, I did not come to Kibera.
So, we are in Azimio. I was in his own town.
They've relied on ODM to do their bidding.
I was in his own home turf during the demonstrations with Wavinya Ndeti during that time. And some of the people never came out to support our party and
his
policy.
own people.
So, and we did that for more than 4 months, 5 months. So we cannot come to this live television and say that ODM, no, it is Kenyans who betrayed the Azimio and ODM. It is vice versa. And when we become pragmatic in our dealings now, and democracy, it must evolve. It can never be stagnant. It is one step after the other. It is about the mind stake that you have in a democracy. And we must always have a change in democracy. If you cannot evolve with the time and see what is best for the people of this country, and at this particular time, we were at a threshold where our country was going to go to dogs. That is when it calls for leadership. Leadership is when you make the right decision during a crisis. And this is where we always give credit to our party leader. He is always able to make a critical decision in time of need. And I believe that ODM as a political party, we are social democrats. We practice social democracy. And we always look at the benefits that the Kenyan people can have in terms of delivering on our ideologies. And we must always be pragmatic and transformative in ideas.
Yes.
And that is what we believe in.
Okay. You want to respond to that?
Yes, I just want to open up and expand the conversation beyond and tell Mwangangi here, we cannot belittle the influence of Kenya in the continent. Kenya has influenced the continent in many ways. If you look at athletics, we are #1 in the continent. If you looked at education, we have always been, in global competitive index, we have always been #1. At some point, I was the president of EI Africa, all teachers in Africa, and I was able to engage various governments in Africa. So you can't ignore this position. If you look at Kenya Vision 2030, it talks about Kenya producing the most competitive human resource. And that human resource, we cannot contain them within the country. The continent must open up for business. If you look at Rwanda, for example, most of the public civil service, it is run by Kenyans. And we want to open borders in the continent so that Kenyans can go and do business in DR, can do business in Sudan, can do business in Nigeria, and Nigerians can come to Kenya, can do business in South Africa, and we can get jobs everywhere, and we run the economic model and political model of Africa the way it's done in Europe, like EU. You fly around Europe very cheaply, and in a very short time, and in a very effective manner. And you can see the Francophone countries in West Africa, the youth taking over and pushing out the former colonialists, the French. There are more benefits within the spirit of Pan-Africanism, of consolidating the continent so that we can maximize on our economic opportunities. And instead of closing ourselves within one corner and boiling in poverty, We can kick out this poverty by removing barriers and boundaries and allowing interaction within the continent. Raila Odinga is not a new face in Africa. He has been the high representative of infrastructure in the continent. And when you talk about the standard gauge railway, this standard gauge railway must connect all the way to Lagos and everywhere, so that then during school holidays, teachers like Orera and the rest can go and take holiday in DR Congo forest with ease and come back. And we must make Africa an easy home for Africa and revolutionize the economy in Africa. The president has been talking about our own minerals within the continent. We should be able to process and add value to our own minerals and raw materials so that we are an economy that competes with other continents and other economies. Those are the big visions. And you cannot lead Kenya without looking at the big opportunity of the entire continent. So I think we should now outgrow this cheap, myopic, primitive, village politics of the past that does not help. Let Kenyans work together. There is nothing wrong if Raila Odinga, as the leader of Azimio, can take tea with the president every day and reflect on how the country moves on. There is nothing wrong with that.
Right.
This is our country, this is our motherland. Let's think differently, let's work differently. What is important at the end of the day, as Professor Macpherson said,
yes,
if it works, then it is right.
Yes.
If all these methods are going to eliminate poverty and make Kenyans live better and make Africans better, so be it.
All right.
He has talked for almost 5 minutes and I don't get his point. Because nobody here is opposed about Raila being what he wants to be.
For the interest of time, I want to start with you. Give your closing remarks. Your closing remarks.
My closing remarks. I urge our colleagues, you know, in ODM, in Azimio, which is ODM, please, there is no harm. If it is join, please join fully. And let there not be one leg in the government, another one out here. You want to control the minority, you want to control the majority. I think that is not proper. Because at the end of the day, where the decision of 4 was meant, and where the decision of African Union Commission was meant, I think the same can be meant to compromise on what Kenyans are getting because of the majority of the one coalition and this particular party. Number 2, Kenya, and as somebody said, I agree totally. As a scholar within the global affairs, I think I've traversed within the region academically and doing a lot of research. And I will tell you for free, the economy of Great Lakes and within this region of East Africa is largely driven by Kenyans. Professionals who are doing great jobs. I've got no problem with that. Interconnecting Africa is good. Making Africa better in terms of governance, democracy is perfect. But we start with Kenya. How is Machakos connecting with Kiambu? How is the country connecting within the metropolitan? Charity begins at home.
Yes.
Through broad-based
Okay?
method.
Not through, don't bring something, don't sneaking. No, don't sneaking something that Kenyans did not ask. Even we don't know the source of that broad-based government. Okay. So in this case, as much as we are focusing on the Africa, we need also to focus internally. Okay. And my parting shot, the very last one, is now the new partner in the government, ODM, should champion devolution in this country without breaking any law. Kenya Kwanza has systematically denied counties resources. Truth be said, Mheshimiwa here has allocated more funds to the departments that ideally are supposed to be executed and implemented by the counties, because those functions, the constitution took them to counties, but the national government has remained with the money. They are executing literally everything that is done is supposed to be done by county legally, and the resources are here in Nairobi. So please let us champion implementation. And I'm not saying so because I'm a deputy governor under devolution. That is not the issue. The issue, I've done a lot of research on the development of this country and the transformation of the same. And devolution is a key way if it is well resourced.
All right.
Thank you.
I must, before I leave, I must always thank my constituents.
Yes.
The Kibra people, the great Kibra people, yes, who champion democracy in this country. Two, I must also urge the broad-based government to consider the sentiments of Gen Zs so that we have a stable country. They consider what the youth should want in this country, what the Kenyans would want in this country, and we move the country. But I also now take this opportunity. I have not talked about my party leader as the chair, as the intended chair of the AAUC. I want to say that he is the most qualified to be the chair. He has championed the rights not only of Kenyans, but the rights of Africa. He's a Pan-Africanist. Yeah. And I heard him the last time that we need to de-dollarize the continent. Yes. We need to champion our own currency. Yeah. And this is some of the development that we require in Africa. I want to thank you as KBC for inviting us here. With my colleague, him is a trade unionist. Yes. Don't give him more time. He can talk for 7 hours.
2 seconds, closing remarks.
Thank
you. My closing remarks, I think, contrary to the beliefs that the Gen Zs are not being addressed, the president's agenda largely is on job creation, re-engineering the economy, triggering the production sector, manufacturing, value addition, housing, ICT, because many youth will be on digital jobs, the State Department of the Diaspora to create jobs externally, and I think the big hallmark, if you look at the key pillars of development of the plan of Kenya Kwanza, is to create jobs for Kenyans and for the youth. Yes. So, and the president has made it very clear that his allies in the next dispensation are the Gen Zs, because the country belongs to the youth. No country engages in any development that does not focus in resolving unemployment and giving the young Kenyan jobs. The president has been very emphatic about it, and I think all should understand. And I want to urge the Gen Zs, young Kenyans, those who are in school, the country must be transformed so that when you get to the employment age, you will meet with your jobs, either locally or internationally. Right. So we want to develop a seamless country that guarantees jobs and quality living to every citizen. That is the agenda of the president.
Thank you. Mike,
thank you.
Mike, just one comment.
1 second, please.
Yes. I ask the government, the two leaders,
yes,
please, as a government, you cannot talk of creating jobs and wealth for the country and jobs for the Gen Zs when you are skyrocketing the issue of taxation. Because many organizations cannot set up, others are running away.
I think that is a conversation for
another day. We depart. Ready to take on that. Number two, we wish well our former leader in Azimio, in African Union. Best of luck to him. We pray for him.
Thank you. That is Honorable Francis Mwangangi, who is the Deputy Governor of Machakos County, Honorable Peter Orero, who is the MP for Kibra, and also Honorable Wilson Sosion, former nominated MP, joining us here on The Viewpoint, talking about matters politics and what is happening in the country. And former Secretary. All right, this is where we cover matters The Viewpoint. My name is Mike Migu. Don't go too far. Vivian Ndegwa is coming back with more. Stay with us. Good morning.